Hello friends, I hope you're all doing well. Why do so many seniors begin to decline after reaching 80, even those who were previously sharp and thriving? Many assume it's all down to genetics or sheer luck, but the reality is much more complex. In this video, we'll explore 5 surprising factors that are often overlooked and seldom discussed. These factors might explain why many older adults don't live as long or stay as healthy beyond their 80s. We're not talking about the usual suspects like diet, smoking, or lack of exercise. Instead, we're diving into deeper, more nuanced issues that frequently go unnoticed, even among those who generally take good care of themselves. The good news is that once you're aware of these issues, you can take steps to address them. If you've ever wondered what really impacts longevity after 80 and what you can do to improve your odds while there's still time, stick with me through this video. These insights could significantly alter how you approach aging. Let's dive in. Number 1. Loss of microsocial engagement. One of the first and most overlooked reasons many older people don't live long after 80 is the quiet disappearance of what experts call microsocial engagement. These are not your deep friendships or family gatherings. Those still matter, of course, but rather the small, seemingly insignificant interactions that used to fill your everyday life without you even noticing. Think about how often you used to say hello to the mailman, share a quick joke with the cashier at the grocery store, or nod to the neighbour walking their dog across the street. Those tiny moments of contact weren't just pleasant. They were regulating your nervous system, reinforcing your sense of belonging, and keeping your brain's social wiring sharp and engaged. But after 80, many older adults stop going to the store themselves. They order things online or ask family to help. They stop chatting with strangers because their hearing isn't what it used to be. Or they stop walking outside simply because the weather's a little too cold or their knees don't feel steady. And when those small social touch points start fading away, so does something else. Vitality. What's interesting is that most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're just simplifying life, but what they're actually doing is removing the low-level social interactions that stimulate brain function, elevate mood, and signal to the body that they are still part of the living, breathing, everyday world. It doesn't have to be complicated. I've known men in their 80s who stayed sharp simply because they walked to the same coffee shop each morning, said hello to the same staff, and nodded to the same 3 people on the corner. That 5-minute stretch of human connection wasn't just routine, it was lifeblood. It gave their day shape, it kept them accountable, it made them feel seen. And there's a biological cost when this disappears. The brain responds to loneliness, both the deep kind and the subtle kind, as a stressor. It changes hormone levels, raises inflammation, and weakens immunity. But most importantly, it begins to shrink the networks in the brain that are responsible for memory, attention, and emotional regulation. In plain terms, it makes you feel older, faster. So if you've found yourself not talking as much to people during the day, or if you've simply stopped going out for small errands, stopped initiating casual conversations, or started feeling invisible in your community, it's time to reverse that. Because those moments of connection, even the ones that seem forgettable, are quietly telling your brain and your body you still matter. You're still part of something. And that message is one of the most powerful medicines for staying alive, not just in years, but in spirit. Number 2. Overcautious inactivity. Another silent reason many people don't make it far past 80 is something that, on the surface, seems like wisdom, being careful. But there's a fine line between being careful and becoming overly cautious. And once that line is crossed, the consequences are rarely immediate, but always cumulative. It often begins with good intentions. Maybe you slipped on the stairs once or nearly lost your balance on the sidewalk, so you decide to cut back on walking outside. You stop bending to reach low shelves or climbing into the back seat of the car. You sit down more and you stay sitting longer. people around you applaud your caution. Don't push it, they say. Take it easy. And before you realize it, you've created a life that's safe, but still. But here's what no one talks about. When movement stops, so does strength. And not just in your legs or arms, but in your coordination, your balance, your inner stability. Your body isn't like a machine that rests to stay efficient. It's more like a garden that needs tending. And when activity slows to a trickle, things don't just stay the same. They weaken. One of the first places it shows is the core. Most people don't realize how important those deep trunk muscles are for everything. Standing, walking, lifting, even getting out of a chair. If those muscles go unused, even for a few weeks, they shrink. And when they shrink, your balance suffers. You start to wobble, and the cycle deepens. I knew a man named Walter, 82, who stopped going on his evening walks after he slipped once on a rainy day. No broken bones, just a scare. But that scare was enough. He went from walking a mile every evening to sitting and watching television most nights. Within 6 months, he lost 10 pounds of muscle. His legs felt like jelly. His doctor warned him, but the damage had already started. Walter didn't stop because he was weak. He became weak because he stopped. Now, I'm not suggesting you ignore real risk. There are smart ways to protect yourself, using handrails, wearing stable shoes, clearing walkways, even using a cane if it helps. But there's a difference between managing risk and surrendering to it. When fear dictates your movements, the body starts to forget how to move at all. So, if you've noticed you're doing less, not because you physically can't, but because you're afraid of what might happen, pay attention to that. Ask yourself, am I protecting myself, or am I slowly disappearing? Because staying alive after 80 isn't just about not falling. It's about continuing to move, even if you have to do it more carefully, more slowly, more deliberately. Movement is how the body remembers that it's still needed. It's how your systems stay online, how your brain stays alert, and how your heart keeps pumping with purpose. And if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure. There's a silent clock inside your body that doesn't tick, but it governs almost everything. Your mood, your metabolism, your immune system, even how your brain repairs itself at night. And after age 80, this internal clock, your circadian rhythm, becomes especially sensitive. One of the biggest reasons it goes off track: not enough light during the day and too much light at night. You might not notice it at first. Maybe you've started sleeping a little more during the day, nodding off in the afternoon sun. Or maybe you've stopped going outside regularly, especially in the colder months. You might turn on the TV in the evening or leave the lights on until late while reading or watching a movie. Each of these changes might seem harmless, but together they quietly confuse the body about when it's supposed to be alert and when it's supposed to rest. The body relies on natural light to stay in rhythm. Bright morning light tells your brain it's time to wake up, to get moving, to send energy where it's needed. And darkness at night signals the release of melatonin, that gentle hormone that prepares you for deep, healing sleep. But when your eyes don't receive enough of that natural daytime light, or when your evenings are filled with artificial brightness from screens or lamps, your internal signals get scrambled. The result? You might find it harder to fall asleep or harder to stay asleep. You might wake up feeling groggy, even after 8 hours in bed. You might find your energy lagging throughout the day, or your memory feeling a little fuzzier than usual. And over time, that sleep disruption affects more than just your energy. It weakens your immune function, makes your mood less stable, and even increases the risk of cognitive decline. There's also the issue of vitamin D, which the body naturally produces when your skin is exposed to sunlight. After 80, your ability to synthesize vitamin D through the skin decreases, which means regular outdoor exposure becomes even more critical. Without it, your bones, muscles, and immune system all take a hit. I once spoke with a woman named Helen, who was 84 and had been feeling increasingly tired and disoriented. Her blood work looked fine, her diet hadn't changed, and she wasn't taking any new medications. The turning point? Her doctor simply recommended she spend 20 minutes every morning sitting by the window with her blinds wide open, and to turn off her screens 1 hour before bed. Within 2 weeks, her sleep improved. So did her memory. So did her mood. It wasn't a new pill. It was light. So, if you've been spending most of your time indoors with the curtains drawn, or if your evenings are filled with blue light from a phone or TV, it's time to shift. Try to get outside within an hour of waking up, even if it's just for a few minutes on your porch. Let your eyes and skin soak in that morning light. In the evening, dim the lights. Let your body prepare to wind down. These gentle rhythms are more than comfort. They are survival. Because what many people don't realize is that the body doesn't just get old from wear and tear. It also gets old from disorganization, from systems being out of sync. And restoring your light cues, your sleep schedule, your daily rhythms. That's how you bring that organization back. That's how you tell your body, even at 85 years old, we're still on schedule, we're still in motion, we're still here. Number 4, emotional suppression from loss and isolation. By the time many people reach their 80s, they've carried more loss than most younger folks can imagine. A spouse, a sibling, a lifelong friend, sometimes even a child. And while the outside world may politely offer sympathy, what's rarely acknowledged is just how much those losses accumulate, not just in memory, but in the body. What often happens after 80 isn't just grief, it's emotional suppression. It's the slow, quiet habit of swallowing the pain instead of expressing it, of putting on a brave face because you feel like you should be used to it by now, or because there's no one left who really understands the depth of what you've lost. But here's the truth, the body doesn't forget. When grief isn't processed, when it's not spoken, not shared, not felt fully, it doesn't just disappear. It gets stored, and over time, that emotional weight becomes physical. It starts to affect your immune system, your digestion, your sleep. It changes your hormones. It puts your nervous system in a constant state of quiet tension. And the hardest part? It happens silently. On the outside, you might look calm. You might even say you're fine. But if your shoulders have grown a little heavier, if your breathing is a bit shallower, if your spark has dimmed just enough that you no longer feel like yourself, grief might be the reason, even if you haven't spoken about it in years. I remember a man named George, 86, who lost his wife of 60 years. He didn't cry much, said it wasn't his way, said he was doing all right. But within a year, he'd lost weight, stopped going to the senior centre, and began having trouble sleeping. Not because of illness, but because his body was carrying sorrow it had never been allowed to release. You see, emotional pain doesn't need to be dramatic to be damaging, and by the time it shows up in your health, the connection isn't always obvious. What keeps people alive well past 80 often isn't just physical strength, it's emotional ventilation. It's having safe, open outlets for sadness, for fear, for longing. It's being able to say, I miss her, or I'm still angry, or I feel alone, and not being judged for it. That kind of release is what lets the heart breathe again. And when the heart can breathe, the body can heal. That's why people who live long tend to have some kind of outlet. Maybe it's a trusted friend, maybe it's a journal, maybe it's faith, or a community group, or even a therapist who helps them unpack the stories they've carried for decades. Whatever the form, the principle is the same. What gets expressed can be transformed. What gets buried festers. So if you've been holding something in, not because you want to, but because you didn't know where to put it, it's time to make space. Not just for the sake of your emotions, but for your life. Because the truth is, the heart can only carry so much before it starts to quietly shut down. And if you want to make it well past 80, not just breathing, but alive, you have to let it feel too. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5. Gradual loss of daily purpose. One of the most invisible reasons many people don't thrive past 80 is the slow erosion of something we often take for granted until it's gone. Daily purpose. Not life purpose in some grand philosophical way, but the simple kind. The kind that makes you get out of bed in the morning with something to do, somewhere to go, someone to see. Purpose doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be watering the plants before the sun gets too hot. It can be feeding the neighborhood cat that waits outside your door. It can be writing a letter to your granddaughter or fixing the hinge on the back gate. But when these little routines start slipping away, when mornings come with no reason to move, and evenings arrive without anything worth reflecting on, something inside begins to quietly shut down. The body listens to the mind, and when the mind no longer sees a reason to push forward, the body follows. Appetite drops, movement slows, and without purpose, the systems that used to regulate your health start to go quiet. Not because they're broken, but because they're waiting for a reason to switch back on. It's easy to miss because it happens gradually. Maybe your weekly bridge game got cancelled. Maybe the church group stopped meeting. Maybe your family visits less often. Or your old volunteer role ended when your knees started aching. You tell yourself it's normal, that it's part of aging, but deep down you can feel it. The days blending together, each one quieter than the last. I once met a woman named Ruth, 88, who seemed more alive than most people half her age. She wasn't wealthy, she wasn't in perfect health, and she wasn't surrounded by a big family. But she had one thing that never left her: routine. Every Monday, she wrote postcards to shut-ins in her church. Every Thursday, she made soup and froze it for a local shelter. Every day, she sat at her window around 4 p.m. to watch the neighbourhood kids walk home from school. She knew their names, she waved to them, and they waved back. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her day's texture, it gave her heart rhythm, it gave her life continuity. And that's the secret no one tells you. The body stays alive as long as it believes it's needed. Purpose, even the smallest kind, is like fuel. It tells your cells to keep repairing, your organs to keep functioning, your brain to keep learning. When you lose that sense of relevance, when you feel like your presence no longer matters to anyone or anything, the flame starts to dim. That's why people who live beyond 80 with grace and vitality usually have something anchoring their day. It could be a garden, a pet, a journal, a ritual, a phone call, a simple morning prayer. What matters isn't the scale, it's the consistency. It's knowing that when you open your eyes in the morning, there's a reason to rise. So, if you've been feeling a little adrift, like your days have lost shape or meaning, don't ignore it. That's not just sadness, it's a signal. Your body is asking for rhythm again, for structure, for connection, for purpose. Because at the end of the day, longevity isn't just about the heart beating, it's about the heart wanting to beat. And that quiet desire to keep going, to stay connected, to still matter. That's what carries people past 80 and into lives that still feel full. Final thoughts. As we conclude this video on timeless wisdom, I want to impart a simple yet profound truth. Most people don't fade after 80 because of a single event. It's not due to a diagnosis, a fall, or a milestone birthday that changes everything suddenly. Rather, it's the gradual and often unnoticed decline in habits, rhythms, and engagement that occurs so subtly and slowly you might not realize it's happening until you feel a dimness within that wasn't there before. But here's the good news. Just as these changes occur gradually, they can also be reversed gradually. Consider taking one walk outside, engaging in one extra conversation at the store, doing one small stretch in the morning, or doing something today not out of necessity, but because it adds structure, connection, or meaning to your life. This is how you start to turn things around. Reflect on the 5 unexpected reasons we discussed. Which one surprised you the most? Which felt uncomfortably familiar? And, more importantly, which are you ready to tackle, even in small ways, starting today? Remember, you have more control over how you age than you might think. If you're prepared to be mindful of these subtle shifts, to safeguard your routines, uphold your sense of purpose, and allow yourself to feel deeply, then you stand a great chance of not just reaching 80, but thriving beyond it, fully and with intention. Thank you for spending time with us today on Timeless Wisdom. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below to share one thing you learned today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to us and greatly encourages our team. If this video was helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it. Your support enables us to continue producing content that educates and inspires. Thanks for watching, and we eagerly anticipate your presence in our next video.